Hi everybody, you join us next to the northernmost tip of the Stover Canal. Now, despite this being an abandoned canal that's being restored, built in 1792 by James Templar, it's not what we're here to see today. It's part of the story. Now, a clue to what we're looking at today instead, however, is just over our shoulder there. And to see some more evidence of this, and possibly one of the most important railways still tangibly in existence today, you need to join us on today's walk, which is about 8 miles that way. So as we leave Venterford Basin and part of the old railway, which will give you more context as we move forward, it's probably worth mentioning as well that the Stover Canal there, the biggest bit of business for that canal was quite possibly the china and porcelain manufacturer Wedgwood, and this canal produced a lot of the clay for them, and that was one of their biggest contracts, despite the fact it only lasted 20 years. So we've just left Bovey Tracy back there, we've just left the Stover Canal back there. Now, by the time this Wedgwood contract was over for James Templar and the canal, his son George Templar was already running some of the Haytor quarries up on the hill ahead of us, about 8 to 10 miles northeast of the Stover Canal. Now, as I said, we're on the Templar Way, and what we found already is more evidence of the old tramway that we're looking at today, right below our feet now. So we've been past that old Stover Canal where there's loads of restored bits of the rails, and we didn't really want to show you that because we wanted to show you some of the bits that are called hidden away in the housing estates in the towns. People might not know what they are. You might just assume this is a little bit of granite here in the pathway, but this is it. This is part of the Haytor Tramway. So this is just a small example, one very small piece of this old Waggonway, and there's a lot more for us to see as we head north and tell you more of the story of the Templars and the Haytor Tramway. So join us as we head north. So for me, Rebecca, this is probably one of the most exciting walks we've been on in a long time.
It is very cool, there's a lot here.
It's just here, isn't it? Yeah. We're walking along a 201-year-old railway. This is sort of 5 years prior to railways being used in their form for carrying people. And it's very unique, but we'll come to all that in a minute. First of all, George the son who was running the quarries. We'd love to tell you this wonderful story of this business acumen, this wonderful entrepreneur. But with George's father dying in 1813, James, who built the canal, remember, George inherited the whole estate, and it didn't appear that he was overly interested in the business, perhaps just time from time. He was always running out of money, he was throwing lavish parties, entertaining lots of different people, including the likes of Sarah Siddons at the time. So how does all this tie together? How does the story of James Templar and his Stover Canal and George, his son, working up at the Haytor Quarries, how does that all tie together with possibly one of the most important railways of pre-passenger history? So much of this route that we've walked so far, even in parts of the town like Bovey Tracy, there's bits that can be seen still today.
I'm walking on it now.
Absolutely.
Literally.
So move forward to 1820, and John Rennie, who may have already had family connections with the Templars, had been tasked with rebuilding the London Bridge. Now, by luck or design, it just so happened that the Haytor stone, the Haytor granite, was specified in that rebuild. So we're about a mile now from the Haytor Quarries, the end of the line for us. And speaking of lines, we're on the old Templar Way in the old railway. And this is probably the first bit today that we haven't actually had any sort of physical railway as such, is it?
Pieces, isn't there? It's like scattered all over the place.
So there was an increasing demand for this Haytor granite. The Templars even used it to build their Stover house in 1781. And of course here we are now in 1820 and there's a massive demand for it, largely due to John Rennie and his new venture of rebuilding the London Bridge. So the George Templars were tasked with how they would get the larger quantities of the granite from up on the hills here in front of us all the way down to the coast. Now they already had the Stover Canal built, so it was more of a case of how do they get it from here down to the Stover Canal. So 1820, and despite being 5 years away from the railways pulling their first passenger in a formal sense, waggonways and tramways had been used for decades to pull your horse and cart laden with heavy goods, whether it was L-shaped plateways made out of iron or whether it was wooden trackways to guide your horse and cart. But young George Templar and his team decided to use another resource which was here in abundance. So we're at 407 metres high at the Haytor rocks, the Saddleworth Tor just behind us. We're realising that what they realised, they had an abundance of stone, or more importantly the Haytor granite up here, and that is exactly what they were going to use to build their railway. Never before have I come across an old tramway where they actually used the granite itself to guide your wagon, your cart. If you look over there, you can see the sea, you can see where the Tyne estuary comes in and the river, and you can see down by the industrial buildings over there where we were at the Stover Canal, in the point where they would load the wagons onto the canal. And you can imagine them stood up here having an idea of how they were going to do this. Ahead of us is the line of the railway, and it's curving down the contours of the valleys, and it perhaps gives you a better sense from here than anywhere, doesn't it? From down there in the canal basin, it perhaps gives you a real good sense of how they decided to do that up here, right at the highest point where they were going to
see miles, can't
you?
You?
Can see,
see exactly what you want to do, yeah.
So we've just come down from the Tor up there, and we walked down to try and pick up the tramway and find the Haytor Quarry, the main quarry, and we found this beautiful stretch. There's even some points up there again where it veers off in different directions, and again I don't think that was unique in terms of tramways having loops or points in their railway, but in terms of the design in a rock itself, I'm pretty sure it is unique. So I think we're just coming around this corner now. There's a few Dartmoor ponies ahead of us to try and tackle. I'm going to suggest that you rugby tackle them, Rebecca, and I'll just carry on filming and walk right past.
Oh, go on then.
Oh. So we've just left Haytor Quarry, which we believe was one of the main quarries that this line was built for in 1820, and we're literally just about to walk over another junction in this railway, which obviously that branched off to the left to Haytor, that way went on to some of the other quarries. And we're left talking about the history of this place, its historical importance from the infamous character that was George Templar. In fact, I think it even said when he opened the line in 1820 there was a procession of wagons and horses, and they were laden with beautiful women, which perhaps tells you a little bit more about George Templar himself than his business acumen as such. And we're now just about to walk across an early embankment, and everything that is here for you to see today just gives me a lot of joy. It's now a site of special scientific interest, so it's protected, and hopefully it will be here for generations to enjoy for a very long time. It's brought us a really enjoyable day today.
It has, it's been lovely, except for it's got a little bit misty wet.
It's got a bit misty and wet, agreed.
Could be worse.
Could be worse. Right, there's rain on the lens now, so we'll wrap this up and say thank you for watching, people. It's a genuine joy that you watch and enjoy our waffle.
Our waffle.
Good point.
Waffle.
Good point. Right, so from the lovely embankment on this is the Haytor Granite Tramway. We'll bid you farewell. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't, because that'd be really helpful for us. And we'll see you next week. One of the things I was going to mention, which I haven't mentioned before, is one of the links in the description below links to some of our pictures, because we sell some of our pictures either in frames or on mugs and bits and pieces. So have a click on that. There's a new link, and we'll put, for example, this picture will be on there in various guises. So have a look at it, because a lot of people ask for our prints. So we decided to actually put our print in a sellable format. It's nothing we're going to make a huge amount of money out of or anything like that, but perhaps if you like some of the pictures we take, you're more than welcome to have a look and see what we've got for sale in there.
On a mug.
On a mug, or a mouse mat,
Or
etc.
a mouse mat, yes.